I remember the night I took the late shift at the gas station. It was around 2 a.m., and the town was silent, the streets empty. The air had a strange heaviness, like something was waiting, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It wasn't uncommon to have a few regulars stop by for gas at odd hours, but that night, no one came for the longest time. Then, around 3 a.m., a car pulled into the lot. It wasn't one I recognized, just an old sedan with rust on the bumper. The headlights were dim, flickering like they were about to give out. I didn't think much of it at first. People who worked late always needed gas, and the car wasn't out of place in a small town like ours. A man stepped out, dressed in a weathered leather jacket and a faded baseball cap. He didn't look at me as he walked toward the pump, his eyes fixed straight ahead. He didn't even glance at the neon sign above the door. As I went to greet him, I noticed something strange. There was a faint smell of something burning in the air, like the remains of an old fire. "Need some gas?" I asked, trying to be polite, but he didn't respond. He just went to the pump and started filling his car, still staring straight ahead. I shook it off, thinking maybe he was just tired. But as the minutes passed, something began to feel off. There was no sound in the station, no hum of the pumps or the usual buzz of a late-night radio station. Just silence, like the world had stopped. Suddenly, the man stopped pumping and looked over at me. His eyes were wide, unnaturally so. He was staring right at me, but not in a way that made sense. It wasn't like he was looking at me. It was as though he was looking through me, like I wasn't really there. I tried to smile, but my stomach dropped when I saw his lips twitch into a faint smile too. But it wasn't the kind of smile that made you feel comfortable. It was wrong, like he was mocking me. I started to feel a cold sweat on the back of my neck. I wasn't sure why, but I had the urge to step back, to just leave. I didn't even know if I should ask if he needed anything else. I kept telling myself to just breathe, but the air felt thicker, heavier. That's when he spoke. His voice was low, gravelly, as if he hadn't spoken in years. "Do you know where this road leads?" I hesitated, caught off guard by the question. The highway, I guess. You head out of town and you're on your way to the next city." He nodded slowly. "No, not the highway. This road, where does it really go?" The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The way he said it sounded like a riddle. "Well, it's just a back road. It leads to the old forest, then out past the cemetery." He smiled again, but this time his eyes never left mine. They seemed to gleam in the dim light. "That's right, the old forest. And do you know who still lives out there?" I felt a chill run through me. Before I could answer, he turned, walking slowly toward the driver's side of the car. I tried to call out, but my voice was caught in my throat. Just as he opened the door, he glanced over his shoulder. "Don't go there at night." Then, without another word, he got in the car, started it up, and drove off into the darkness. The car's headlights flickered one last time as it disappeared down the road, and just like that, the silence returned. I stayed in the gas station that night, watching the empty road. The smell of burning still lingered in the air. The next morning I found out that the man's car had never been registered. And even stranger, no one in town recognized him. And when I asked about the road to the old forest, the locals got quiet. They all said the same thing. "Don't go there at night.